Between inflation, tariffs, and a recession, having a stocked pantry is an absolute must. There are so many factors that can affect the availability as well as the price of many of the goods that we take for granted today. So it's best to start putting those things aside right now. If you're new here, my name is Amanda. I focus on frugal living, budget homemaking, and making sure that my family and my house is prepped for anything. If that's something that interests you, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. So the first thing that you're going to want to start putting aside are paper products. This is your paper towel, your toilet paper, your paper plates, anything that you need that is made from paper. We all remember the toilet paper shortage of 2020 and nobody wants to repeat that again. So making sure that you have extra for your family is absolutely vital. There's a lot of forest fires and they seem to be increasing in size as well as frequency every single year. There's more and more. Having those forest fires is going to diminish the availability of paper products, which is also going to make the price of them increase. So making sure that you have more set aside before those price increases hit or before the stock starts to run out is really important. The next thing that you're going to want to put aside are batteries. Batteries are a huge part of our lives. We put them in everything from flashlights to controllers, but the ingredients in these come from foreign lands and that isn't always a reliable source. Anything coming from a foreign industry is not always reliable. It is subject to supply chain issues. It's subject to shortages or tariffs. So just making sure that you have a few extra packages of batteries put aside, and then every time you use one, you restock that supply. Coffee is our next one. As I recently found out, the price of coffee can instantly double without even noticing. So I recently had a scare when I went in to buy some coffee, the same brand where we normally had. We had been relying on the coffee that I had stockpiled for a while, so I hadn't seen the tariffs hit on the coffee. But when I did, I was so surprised. So I made sure that I found a coffee that is Canadian and a lot cheaper. So this is actually more product in here and it was a heck of a lot cheaper than the American brand. But I will be stockpiling a lot of these. Now you can freeze coffee to make it last longer. And if you have whole beans as opposed to ground beans, then that will also last longer. But make sure if you are a coffee drinker that you get some of this and put it aside. Seeds are my next one. If you have any sort of land or any space available where you can be putting some containers, you should be growing some of your own food so that you are not fully reliant on the middleman of the grocery stores. Especially now with prices increasing and weather events seemingly getting more and more severe, crops could easily fail and the prices will go up and there will be scarcity. So making sure that you can put aside some food for your own family is very important. So if you have any land or any space where you can grow some food, make sure you're doing that, but also make sure that you are putting aside seeds. Seeds can last forever if they are kept in a proper space. So make sure they are kept in a cold, dark, dry area, and you will be able to keep these seeds forever. They're in stock right now, so grabbing a few extra packages and putting them aside is a great idea. This box here is what I use to keep my seeds in. It's actually a photo container. So it actually has two separate closing areas. So you open it up, and these you would normally keep your photos in, but for me, I keep my seeds in them. I can label them, and so I can keep all my different seeds in all these little containers, and then I keep them safe and dry in this big container, and they're well organized. I absolutely love these. You can find them on Amazon. The next thing that you're going to want to put some aside of are nuts and anything made with nuts. So you're looking at your nut flours and your nut butters. So why I am saying nuts right now is, again, because of the severe weather patterns that we are getting these days. Floods or drought could harm the harvest of the nut production. I know in the past, a lot of drought has really affected especially the almond harvest, but I'm sure it affects all your different nuts. There's also an issue of pollination. The bee collapse issue and the insect collapse issue absolutely harms the pollination of any of your trees or plants. So there's a lot of varying factors here. So make sure you're going out, and if you are somebody who that enjoys nuts, nut butter, or nut flours, say if you're gluten-free, then make sure you're grabbing some of these. Toss them in the freezer to make sure that you're extending their lifespan. Because nuts, because of the oil in them, they will go rancid if they're just kept in a regular spot. So absolutely toss them in a Ziploc bag, put them in the freezer. You can do this with your nut flours as well to help extend the lifespan. That being said, I don't know how well frozen nut butter does, but you can always try it and let me know. Over-the-counter medication. Medical supplies are not always touched on. A lot of people focus on the food when they're stockpiling, but forget about their medication. So over-the-counter medication has a lot of supply coming from foreign lands. Again, this is a foreign industry issue where it's not always reliable and the prices can also skyrocket. So making sure that you have things that you regularly need, like your Tylenol, your Advil, anything for kids as well, make sure that we're putting that aside. I know a few years ago, we had a stock issue with children's Tylenol where you could not find children's Tylenol anywhere. And we had a wicked fever going through our house, and it just made for such a horrible time to not be able to help anybody out with pain or with fever issues. Now, normally I do like to let a fever go, but it can get to a dangerous point if it's over 105 degrees, where it can get to a point where seizures can happen and damage to the brain can happen if that fever is too high. So having Tylenol on hand for that child who is having a bad fever is a necessity. So ever since that time, I make sure that I have more than one bottle around so that I can look after an issue if needed, and then I'm not panicking if there's a shortage. And then, as with everything, there is an expiry to these things, so make sure that you are cycling through your pantry. You're cycling through all of your items that have an expiry date on them. You're not just leaving it and forgetting it. You need to go through your pantry and pull out the older things, use them up first, and then just keep rotating through and stockpiling as you are going through things. Making sure your family is prepared and having the things that your family needs not only is a huge help on the budget, but it is also a huge help in times of need. Again, this is not always, oh, there's a recession, oh, there's tariffs, or any of that. It could just be a natural disaster, which we witnessed this winter with the ice storms. It could be a loss in the family and you cannot get out for a few days, or even sickness and you can't get out for a few months. So making sure that your pantry is stocked could really be a lifesaver. If you're looking for more ideas, I'm going to make sure that I put my link here on my whole playlist with prepping ideas. If you're looking for more of those ideas, make sure you click that link and check out all of my videos. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you guys next time.